Here's a look at everything we ate in the last 10 days of January as a family of 5 trying to live on a reduced grocery budget. Here we go. This is the kids' lunch on Monday. These were some frozen hot dog buns I had. Just made some ham sandwiches out of them, rice cake, granola bar, yogurt, and homemade applesauce. While they were at school, I made these pretzels. I've never made these before. These came amazingly good, so we had them for after school snack, and also I had mine for lunch that day. Monday night was the leftover roast elk. I threw the mashed potatoes and Brussels sprouts in the oven just to reheat them, reheated the gravy, and then I'd also made a loaf of homemade bread while I was doing the pretzels, and so we served it so you could have it as a sandwich. For lunch the next day, the kids had the last of that loaf of homemade bread and made sandwiches, Teddy Grahams, goldfish, yogurt, applesauce, and my oldest had some cucumber slices. While they're at school, I made a double batch of zucchini brownies and used up some of that zucchini that's been in my freezer from last summer. For supper that night, I used the very last of the elk and made like a shepherd's pie with the leftover mashed potatoes. We had green beans, dilly beans, more of that homemade bread, and roast squash. The kids just had a bagel, a zucchini brownie, Teddy Grahams, applesauce, and a clementine. I think we are almost out of the clementines. Adult lunch that day was just a quick ham sandwich with some just raw broccoli and some salad dressing. Supper that night was sausages, leftover squash, the leftover dilly beans, and some eggs with cheese on top. The kids for lunch had sausages, a bagel, Teddy Grahams, leftover zucchini brownies, clementines, and applesauce. Cleaning out the fridge and freezer, we had a leftover jam with gingerbread pie. And for lunch, then we just had a sandwich, some broccoli again for the grown-ups. For supper that night, I had some bone-in, skin-on chicken breast. So I just put it in the air fryer and shredded it. Did a little vegetable stir fry and served it with the vermicelli noodles I had left over from Christmas time. And we served it with our jam and gingerbread pie. Kids' lunch that day was a super easy, just leftover stir fry, applesauce, clementine, and Teddy Grahams. The grown-ups just had a little leftover stir fry. I threw the rest of the chicken in and the rest of the noodles to use them up. That brings us to Friday night, which is make your own pizza night typically. So this was some chicken, bacon, and some cheese and homemade tomato sauce. And there is my son making his pizza. Saturday night for supper, we just did some smoothies, some frozen waffles, a couple hard-boiled eggs, and the very last of the chicken stir fry. For lunch that day, I also made a pile of boiled eggs. I think I did 20, so that's all that was left. Sunday, I decided to do a big pot of chili. So we had some garlic bread from Flash Food and chili. We had that for lunch and supper that day with some sour cream, also still left over from Christmas. Monday was a snow day, so we ended up having the leftover chili for lunch. And then for supper, I just added some macaroni noodles with it and the rest of the garlic bread to finish that up. The kids for lunch took some macaroni with some leftover chili on top, applesauce, some Cheerios, and then I think they also had some Teddy Grahams there as well. The grown-ups for lunch, we just had some lettuce I was trying to use up and some cucumber, and then I fried up a couple frozen turkey burgers and threw some cheese on top. For Tuesday night supper, I did some mashed potatoes, frozen Brussels sprouts, and then for our chicken, it was just boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I breaded and threw in the air fryer. Highly recommend doing chicken this way. It comes out so nice and crispy. Tuesday night, I ended up making chocolate chip cookies after supper at the request of my youngest child so they could have it for their lunch the next day. This is their lunch, a chocolate chip cookie, applesauce, the rest of the chicken, a bagel, and some Teddy Grahams for them to take. Grown-up lunch was fried up leftover mashed potatoes with cheese, homemade salsa, and a couple eggs. So happy the chickens are laying eggs again. I think we had about 30 eggs last week. Wednesday night, the last day of the month, brought us some home-canned baked beans, some fish cakes made with home-canned salmon, some hot dogs, Last of the Brussels sprouts, some homemade dill pickles from cucumbers I grew last summer, and I made an oatmeal brown bread, which is my mother-in-law's recipe. So that is everything we had the last 10 days of January living on the pantry challenge. Our budget for the month was $325 and we came in, I believe, at $243 for the month of January. So we've been eating lots and lots of stuff out of our pantry and coming up with some interesting combinations sometimes. We're starting into February now, so we'll see how we do for the next 4 weeks on our pantry challenge. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.